have to do your like entry dance? So, hello everyone. I am Brittany, and I have with me Lauren, as always, and we are
Hello.
whining with witches. So, today's topic is going to be about um, neurodivergence in the witchcraft community, and of course, I'm sure we're all going to be excited for Lauren's perspective. So, before we get started, though, let's talk about what we're drinking. Let me
Yeah.
pull mine out of my koozie.
I'll actually open mine.
Oh, I have two as well. So I have an old favorite that I discovered when I went to Boston, the Sam Adams Summertime Ale. Super, so good. It is a citrus wheat.
Sounds
Really good.
yummy.
It is.
Um, so I'm in my studio today, and we're not supposed to consume alcoholic beverages on the premises. So I'm drinking a Liquid Death Mango Chainsaw, which is actually a sparkling water. Um,
Ah,
if people haven't tried Liquid Death before, I haven't had the original flavor, but I do like all the original, like the flavored
mhm.
flavors. Um, they're an amazing company. Their branding is 10/10 top notch. So just check them out. Yeah.
So when you said you had a liquid death, I was not expecting it to be like alcoholic water. I was like, oh, it's clearly some kind of Four Loco kind of
No, no,
bullshit.
no. It's just sparkling water. It's not alcoholic.
It's non-alcoholic?
No.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
even weirder.
Yeah. It's so good. It's so good. Yeah. It's like a whole cult.
The name makes it I I love it. I love
Yeah.
it, so,
Yeah. No, it's good.
um, so yeah, so you're in your studio, which means that must be your art behind you, so
Yeah.
tell us about that real quick, and then we'll get started.
Oh, gosh. Okay. So this is my loom. Uh,
Oh,
and Uh, this piece in the middle I'll talk about, and then this one and this one are currently like works in progress.
mhm,
I work very intuitively, so a lot of what I end up having to do is just put things on the wall and kind of work through it. Um,
mhm.
but the one in the middle was actually commissioned by an organization in the UK called Sibling Collaborative. And they specifically did an open call for the theme around what they called witches and bitches, which is
I love that.
specifically, investigating kind of the pipeline, like the historical pipeline culturally from how women were called witches. And then now within modern terms, like the replacement of the word bitch. Um, and my proposal that they accepted was the idea of being too much
Mhm,
as a femme presenting person, specifically, and then also just from my perspective as like a neurodivergent person.
right.
Um, so once they have the website done, I can share the actual close ups because it's really hard to see all the amazing stuff happening. But it's two pieces of glass that have a photo transfer on the inside with some writing, and then that is sewn into this crochet structure.
Mhm.
So it was a lot of fun.
So how does your, like, neurodivergence fit into that?
So a lot of the experiences growing up, and I think a lot of women experience this in general, but they're kind of key signs of misdiagnosis in girls. And I don't know if you know this, Brittany, but I'm going to talk about it anyways. Anytime they like write the symptoms for any kind of condition, the party that they always choose to do like their clinical research on is boys.
Oh.
Which creates a lot of issues when you get into the fact that, you know, 51% of the population is assigned female at birth.
Mhm.
Um, and so just being told that you're too loud, you talk too much. Um, Specifically, one thing that adults always told me is that they wish they could bottle my energy and sell it.
What?
Um, which,
That's
like,
very Ursula of them.
as a
Like,
kid, I
"This
was
is
like,
a
"Ah,
nice."
that's so funny." And as an adult, I'm like, "Why would you tell a child that? Like, why would you tell a child that?"
Like, uncomfortable laughter. Insert
Yeah,
uncomfortable laughter here.
yeah. So just those kinds of experiences.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
that will be interesting, and for those of you watching and or listening, whenever that website gets updated,
yeah,
I will put it in the description of this video and or podcast audio.
yeah. We'll
So,
share it on Instagram.
this will probably be a weird question, but did you name your loom?
Okay, so I really, really want to. I have not yet, and I'm actually so open to suggestions. I was trying to I think Google goddesses involving weaving because obviously it's
Mhm.
a very ancient craft.
Yeah.
Very just innately feminine. And I haven't settled on anything. So one day I'll name her.
Okay.
Yeah, she technically still belongs to the university. We haven't started the purchasing process yet.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, I think once she's mine though, that I'll get her a little nameplate.
Yeah, that would be awesome, and then you have to feature it here.
Yeah. Be like, yeah.
Okay, so that is we'll have to figure out a name. We'll have to go through the naming process and see what we come up with.
Yeah.
But so I think that's a great transition though, your art with the topic today. And so basically I just want to hear from your side of things. Especially I know you're not like as in the community as I am. So I still want to hear your perspective
Yeah.
of how, witchcraft has affected your neurodiversity and vice versa,
Yeah.
whether good or bad or a little bit of both or whatever. And then we can kind of talk about it, how you feel it's reflected in the community.
Okay. So I'll start out with I guess the definition because some people classify things differently. So when I say neurodivergence, that it's such a large thing, but I guess just for today's episode, I'm including mental health
Yeah.
issues in that. And so specifically, the thing that I remember being really interesting to me was probably 6 or 7 years ago. I started specifically going to a therapist who specialized, and I don't remember the fancy names. They put little sensors on your head to track
Oh.
your brain waves.
Uh-huh.
And through the therapy that they do, their goal is to specifically help you alter your brain chemistry when thinking emotionally of stressful topics at the time. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, and I love brains. I think they're very cool. Not well, I won't get into cannibalism, but anyways, um, the brains within humans are just very cool things to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so during that process was also when I was, I guess, starting my path and my
Mhm.
journey, and so much of it lined up with
Really?
this therapist who she considered herself a holistic therapist. She doesn't, her goal is not medication for her
Yeah.
patient.
Like more so her goal is to naturally reformulate or like redo
Yeah,
your chemical responses in your brain
yeah,
without having to default just rely on
yeah.
meds. Gotcha.
So a lot of it was based around meditation and
Mhm,
meditation practices, which is still to this day a huge part of my practice. I know it's
mhm,
not for everyone, but that was a particularly large overlap that I thought was interesting. And
mhm.
then also talking a lot about, which I know this is such a buzzword now, but the internal divine or the
Yeah.
divine feminine, the divine that you find in yourself. And then also, and I don't know what people are calling it nowadays on the internet.
You're like, "What are the kids saying
Yeah,
nowadays?"
I don't know, so I apologize. I don't mean to offend anybody, but a guided meditation to find an animal guide. Um,
Oh,
to
yeah.
specifically assist in processes that you when you are overwhelmed or stressed that you can do breathing exercises and rely on that guide to help you transition within that space. So there's a surprising amount of overlap in that process.
Yeah.
um, and then especially when starting that whole journey, I just found it really
Mhm.
interesting. um, Within actual spaces that I've been into, in DFW, there are a lot of actual really large communities that do open ceremonies and stuff.
Really?
Yeah,
I feel like we've spoken about this before, but I'm still always surprised every time I
yeah,
hear
yeah. Yeah. There's a lot, and it's just, I think in general, because of what people think when they think of witchcraft. They're like, "Ooh, people are weird." Um, on
Yes.
top of people just being weird, I think there's also just a larger percentage of people who are neurodivergent within the community,
I
because
agree.
normally those people are more accepting and open to like exploration.
Right.
And so, yeah, group gatherings are just always a fun time. I'm awkward, they're awkward, and then it's
So
just
you guys
like,
can just be awkward together.
yeah, and it's just like, hi, you know.
I think that's how you make some really cool friends though. Like
Oh yeah,
you just find the people with the right kind of awkward that matches your kind of awkward and it's perfect.
yeah, yeah. You
That's
just have to
basically
like,
how I assume we became friends because
yeah.
that was a whole Bermuda Triangle of a situation. But
That could be a whole episode.
oh yes, we should totally do an episode of like conspiracy theories, and our friendship can be like one of them. That
Yes.
would be so
Yeah, yeah.
fun.
That would be funny.
But I think that's really cool, especially because, so when you meditate, do you do like traditional, still your body, that kind of meditation or
I try to be still. Sometimes that's just not possible for me. Uh,
Mhm.
and I don't understand how people can do the whole lay down meditation thing.
Without
Uh,
going to sleep?
I don't know if it's because I wear contacts. So it's just like I can't do that. So normally I sit
Oh,
either
okay.
on the floor or I have my recliner in like my space.
Yeah.
And so I'll
You
like,
just get comfortable.
yeah, yeah, I get comfortable. Bless you.
Thank
Um,
you.
and then also, I would even consider meditation like there have been times I've gone outside, and especially if like the moon's particularly captivating, just like a few deep breaths of like
Mhm.
recentering, I would consider that like a meditation.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't think
yeah,
people realize like meditation doesn't have to look a certain way. It
yeah,
doesn't, as long as you get to the end goal of whatever it is you're trying to meditate.
yeah,
Like, usually, most times, it's either grounding or centering or some combination
yeah,
of both. So as long as you can reach that goal, then it works. Because
yeah,
one of the things I noticed in the community is, like, the acceptance or opening up to the idea that meditation doesn't have to just look like you, like, sitting cross-legged on the floor, you're like, "Oh," you
like,
know? So, because a lot of people, especially with like ADHD and stuff,
yeah,
just can't sit still. So it's not going to work for them.
yeah,
So, um, I've started to see a lot more acceptance in the concept of active meditation.
yeah,
And so, going on hikes or like light hikes or something like that,
yeah.
or for some weirdos, it's cleaning or, I mean, not me, but
Right? I love
But,
that.
it could be cooking. A lot of, like, my kitchen witch buddies are
Yeah,
really into meditating while they cook and just focusing on that, and that's how they expel their energy or they can center themselves or whatever it is they need out of that
yeah.
active meditation.
No, I
So,
agree 100%. And I think that turns people away from it a lot. And
yeah.
it's such an important thing to a human to have those resources, especially when we live in such like an overly busy, chaotic world.
I agree. Sorry, this one here is, like, circling
No,
me.
I
It's
can't.
it's lap time with mama time.
Is it Luna or Apollo?
That's Luna.
Okay. Hi, Luna.
So, I think that, that being a really beneficial thing it's good because a lot of people, even if you're not neurodivergent, I feel like especially over the last 2 years, just times have been stressful. So finding ways that work for you to get that energy out or focus or just anything to help with mental health is
Yeah.
really just I like that. I like seeing that push for these different options for different people for their different needs.
Yeah. And then just before we change subjects, one thing I'll say, and I know not everyone will agree with me on this thought process, um, but having a practice cannot replace the care of a good like medical health professional. Um, and they can assist each other and they can guide each other. And then like no longer being in therapy, I definitely use tools and resources like integrated. with my practice to help maintain good mental health. But I definitely want to encourage people that if they need help, to please seek a medical health professional. Doesn't have to be permanent. A lot of times they are temporary. Their goal is to get you to a place that you can be self-sufficient. So a lot of people don't do that.
That is a great tip.
Yeah.
And it's also a great transition into the concept of like shadow work, which is
Yeah.
not inherently witchcraft, but a lot of witches tend to use those principles. And for anybody listening or watching or whatever, who doesn't know what shadow work is, it's basically just I think it's pronounced Jung, Carl Jung. It's a Jungian theory or principle on just a psychological principle to deal with, just psychology in general, whether it be your psychology or someone else's psychology. So, the concept of shadow work is usually like exploring the shadow side of yourself, diving deep into that and finding out why that is a shadow part, how it affects your life and stuff like that. And what people, especially in the witchcraft community, often forget is therapy is that.
Yeah.
So shadow work doesn't have to be, sitting with tarot cards or other divination and um making yourself cry in a corner, or it doesn't just have to be journaling these shadow work prompts. It can be just working with a therapist, and that can easily complement these other things because now you discover these topics that might trigger you or topics that you've dealt with for a long time and don't really have the tools to overcome them. So if you have a therapist, their job is to help you get over those things,
Yeah.
not, get over, but address them and face them head on.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the downsides I see a lot of times in the magical community is that they forget that we are still human. We live in a human world, and yes, it's great to do these things on your own, but there are people whose jobs it is to help us for that reason. So not everything has to be mystical and magical, and just because you're a witch doesn't mean that you can't go to a therapist and count that as your shadow work.
Yeah.
So when you said you found this person, do you tell your therapist that you practice witchcraft?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, so both therapists that I've had, because a lot of times when you like go through the process, they'll ask you about your religion.
Oh,
Even
okay.
though most therapists are non-denominational, they do ask that question so that they can align their language with your beliefs.
Mhm.
That's kind of like a guiding mode. And so I just tell them that I'm a practicing pagan. And
Mhm.
then the first one very much knew what witchcraft was. So I think she asked me more specific questions. And then the
Oh,
other
okay.
one was just fine. I even think my psychiatrist asked me.
Oh.
I think it's just a part of like the standard kind of like intake process.
Oh, okay. I
And
didn't realize that.
yeah. And I understand that like not everyone would want to share that. You don't have to.
Yeah. No.
But I
I'm
do,
just curious.
if it's a good therapist, I do think them aligning their language to suit your language is really helpful and really important.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I feel like it also just helps paint the picture of who you are to
Yeah.
them as well. So it just helps build that connection if you feel comfortable doing so, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I
But
want to say, like, an example that I can think of is that specifically instead of saying God, like, she would switch her phrasing to the universe,
yeah.
which sometimes those are important
Yes.
differentiators. Yeah. So,
Totally. I feel like I've gone through a phase of being vehemently anti-religious when I was a
yeah.
kid to being like just okay, whatever, to being a borderline vehemently anti-religious again. Um,
Burn it all
so
down.
yeah, I would not respond well to that.
Yeah.
um, So I guess another question, and of course, I mentioned earlier you're not big into the communities, especially
Yeah.
online. So, um, we kind of touched on it a little bit with the idea of like shadow work and people not recommending therapy, but just not having the foresight to recommend it. Are there other things in the community that you feel can be somewhat detrimental to someone's mental health, especially if they're neurodivergent?
I think a lot of times people are looking for quick fixes.
Mhm.
And I think it's very easy to fall prey to fancy advertising.
Mhm.
Um, and so, very much just a reminder of like, you obviously know your body best and have to, follow what guides you best.
Mhm.
And you don't always have to buy the most expensive things for
Yeah.
them to serve you the way that you need them to serve you. So, I really like incense and anointing oils,
Mhm.
but I don't need to buy an $8 like 4-pack of incense to get the job done. Like I don't need them to
Right.
be hand rolled, you know, which
It's
those are
like it's like the organic buzzword for,
yeah,
like, fruits and veggies in the
yeah,
witchcraft world, yeah.
yeah, and they're so gorgeous. They really are, especially the ones that you can tell are actually like hand rolled. But I'm just like, I can't pay $8 for 4 incense.
Yeah, yeah, it's hard because the only way to make those affordable is to buy them in bulk, and
Yeah,
it's hard to find places to buy those in bulk because 'cause they're
yeah,
handmade or, they're specialty made. So, yeah,
yeah.
you
So
kinda go with what you can go with.
yeah, I really think it would just be a reminder that there is no quick fix
Yeah.
and that what works for some people won't work for others.
Mhm,
I used to like quartz is a common like recommendation for cleansing,
mhm.
space. And that didn't particularly work for me.
Yeah,
But then I was able to find other options that did work for me. So, like specifically, tourmaline quartz is what it ended up being, but it was small enough that I could carry it in my pocket and it was smooth.
yeah.
So it wasn't necessarily just the presence of like having a crystal on me, but being able to like hold it and like fidget with it. Uh,
Mhm.
so just
That
using
was
people,
your version of a fidget spinner.
yeah, so using people's recommendations, but like taking the time to explore what works best for you and then not
Mhm.
being upset when you don't immediately find it because
Yeah.
that can be hard too.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good point. It also brings me kinda to my next, like, point of contention is like, excuses tend to be made, both for, like, excuses on why things didn't work, to like, as a quick fix, or excuses to just excuse behavior that is usually bad.
Yep.
So, and, it's not a knock on just neurodivergence, but it goes back into what I was saying before and kind of what we were talking about earlier, that sometimes there's not a replacement for going to a doctor
Yeah.
and a professional. And I think that there are certain practices that try to excuse certain things in order to allow you not to do that.
Yep.
Like I recently discovered, have you heard of topomancy? I
What?
think I said yes, I think I said that right. It's very when you read up on it, it sounds very much like a practice created around the concept of DID.
Ooh,
Um,
okay.
and basically the concept is the way that someone described it to me, and then I'll tell you how I've been reading about it. Someone described it as like um, making an imaginary friend and having them become real. And by real, it's like, kind of like a spirit guide
Yeah.
equivalent, like an entity of some sort. But when you read up on it, it is not quite that. It's more so assigning like magical properties or purposes to each of your systems, but
Okay.
you're also in control of making them. So it's very much it seems very much of an enabling thing, and not to say that any of course, if you have DID, that is serious and you should get diagnosed if you haven't or whatever, but it seems like an excuse to get around either being diagnosed,
Yeah.
or the bad thing that I've been seeing a lot of recently is it's the social media thing to do
Yeah.
lately to pretend that you have this,
Yeah,
which
I
is
was just thinking of
really,
TikTok.
yeah, really detrimental to people that are suffering from this and are actual part of the DID community and are trying to get better, because now you are being presented with this information that is counter to your mental health. So I feel like of I see a lot of times people making excuses for certain behavior, and of course you see it online. It's very easy to it's highlighted when you're online versus in person,
Yeah.
of course. But yeah, I wasn't sure if you had heard of that, and I'm
Oh,
curious
yeah.
what you think of it.
Not necessarily in like the aspect of like the like from the perspective of the witchcraft community, but especially when like TikTok was trying to like figure out my algorithm on the TikToks.
The TikToks.
I was gonna say, just so everybody knows, Brittany and I are old.
Well,
Yeah,
thanks for pointing it out.
yeah, on the TikToks, I was getting a lot of that, and I remember back in the MySpace days. Um, the the internet has always been, even Gaia Online. Oh gosh, um, the internet has always been a platform that allows people to explore who they are and like create personas. Um, and I think especially with the pressure that like younger people go through because of social media, I think it's even more extreme. And obviously, getting diagnosed with like accessibility access is a huge issue within the United States. Uh,
Hmm.
but like TikTok can't diagnose you,
Yeah,
like just it can't go to, like, if accessibility is an issue, go to your library. There's so many resources on the internet.
yeah,
Please don't diagnose yourself with TikTok, or follow advice from TikTok.
yeah. TikTok has been, I feel like there was a point where like TikTok could have been a really great resource for the community. And it
Yeah,
was just like, you know what? Hold my beer.
yeah.
I'm going to do exactly the opposite.
Yeah, and, like, I'm on ADHD TikTok, and I love it, 10/10 relatable content, but I do feel like everyone who is on that side of TikTok, these are recommendations based
Right.
off of personal experiences, so, like, things that they've worked for them, or, like, finding ways to explain why they stare at a wall for 15 minutes when they're trying to get dressed in the morning.
Yeah.
Um, but those are very different things than, like, something really negatively impacting how you live your life.
Yeah.
And if it's negatively impacting how you live your life, you need to seek medical help.
Yes.
Yeah.
And just like you said, I caveating, we are very aware in America that can be very difficult to
Yeah.
do,
Yeah.
but we are still recommending it.
Yes. Yeah. Which is hard, but
Yeah, gosh, don't even get me on that soapbox.
yeah, I don't care.
Um,
Another full episode, an hour-long
um,
episode coming
it's just
in a
gonna be
theater
us
near you.
ranting and complaining about the healthcare
Yeah,
system.
I'll pull out my receipts.
Oh, literally, like actual receipts. Yeah, it's very interesting. I just see, and maybe this is just like an online forum phenomena. I don't know if you've noticed it in person when you go to these switching communities or not. Why do you
Yeah,
do
no, because
that?
the stuff you've shared with me is just flipping wild. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how else to say it. Like, people don't do those things in real life.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
you the internet unlocks a lot of things.
Yeah.
But not to bash anyone, of course. At the end of the day, as long as you're doing something that makes you happy and
Yeah.
isn't hurting yourself or others, it's whatever. It's just the certain practices that I see that are enabling behavior that I think
Yeah.
long term is just not. It just can't be good for your mental health, and
Yeah.
it's just enabling you to continue down a path that isn't healthy. So,
Yeah.
and I see it quite frequently, unfortunately. It's a very common phenomenon. on these forums.
Yeah. When I was having tremendously detrimental issues with anxiety, the internet, was like, lavender oil, which love lavender oil. There was not enough lavender oil I could consume, smell, eat, breathe within a day that allowed me any comfort
Yeah.
or resolution from the level of anxiety I was experiencing at the time. And so I had to go to a doctor.
Yeah, you just have to.
Yeah, but it's like, a lot of what people don't know when you put those things off, like obviously having extreme anxiety for like the amount of time I did, like that hurts your brain. Your brain, like it affects things.
Mhm.
The longer you're distracted with like these tools that aren't really helping you, you're
Yeah.
just, putting off being able to actually get help.
And it probably fuels the cycle as well, because if you're trying these things that you're thinking are supposed to help you or fix you, fix,
Yeah.
I use that term loosely, and they don't work, that is oftentimes devastating, right?
Yeah.
Because you build up this hope and it doesn't work, and then you're like, okay, I'm gonna try something else. And this constant, I would say what feels like failure probably
Yeah.
is not
Yeah.
it's just perpetuating an already stressed mind,
Yes. Yeah.
which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
But it looks like we're at 30 minutes. Was there anything else you wanted to add on before we get off of here?
No, I'll plug Liquid Death again. Actually, I was reading a section of their can. Maybe they'll sponsor us. Liquid Death will send me liquid.
Liquid Death, call us.
It says hashtag death to plastic. We donate 10% of the profits from every can sold to help kill plastic pollution.
Hmm.
And I buy them by the case
Yeah.
because I have a problem. It's all nice cardboard, and nice aluminum. So
Nice.
try
Does
Liquid
it
Death.
taste weird? I mean, I guess it wouldn't, right? It doesn't taste weird being in an aluminum can.
No.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. It's just like most seltzer waters.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, as soon as I said it, I was like, I guess not. I drink seltzer
Yeah.
water and it's
Yeah.
fine.
But they are very hydrating. Yeah, like their little tagline is "Murder Your Thirst," and they are in fact very hydrating.
Do they have like electrolytes in them or
I
something?
don't know. Let me see. Carbonated mountain water, agave nectar, natural mango flavor, citric acid, orange extract, and natural flavor.
Yeah.
Uh,
Ooh, agave. That sounds good though.
yeah, and this one is 20 calories per can.
Plenty.
But yeah. Oh yeah, and natural electrolytes.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so that's my
Well,
plug for today.
shameless plug for today.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Lauren. And thank you so much, audience, for listening and or watching. We will be back next month with another episode. We don't know what it's going to be about yet. So if you have ideas or topics or whatever, you can let us know either on social media or email us, whatever. Like I said, we're old, so you can email us. And yeah, we will catch you guys on the flip side. Bye, everyone.